right, we are back with a juicy topic this week, Kelly.
Happy anniversary
to NAR changes. Wow, that was really good. We just made that.
I know.
Up.
I know.
Oh my God.
That was a cool riff I just
We're
did.
going to go into the music biz.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that it's been a year since all of the changes with NAR.
Since the big settlement.
The big settlement that was like ever looming and scary. I remember, I think it was March of 2024 when like everything started to come out and then like the world was ending and then everyone was like, no, it's not ending. And then through the summer, it was just like so much prep of like, this is how it's going to change and this is what you need to do. And then all of our clients and people that we know were like, are you going to go out of business? And I was like, no. And here we are a year later, still around like cockroaches.
End of days, and we're just still fucking here.
But yes, to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the NAR settlement changes, we wanted to talk about like how things have changed in our business with working with buyers. You know, obviously state by state is different. There are some MLSs that aren't subscribing to the change too. So there are some folks out there that don't have to abide by this. But for the most part, we all had to make a shift. And for better or worse, here we are.
Yep. What's changed? What's not?
Yeah.
How does it feel? What's the environment like? And we will be using the term cookies.
Cookies.
Yeah. To stay
out of jail.
Yes, to stay out of real estate jail.
Okay, so my thoughts on this, which I think are likely, I think most people, I think most agents that are out there producing would agree that these changes have not affected their business that much. Rather, they have just shifted the way they do things. And in terms of like compensation, there was a study that said that agents are making more. I believe that came out. But not only just on the compensation side, but just like it hasn't drastically changed the way that we work with buyers or the amount of business we're able to get, right? It hasn't hurt us.
I think things are better for me now with it.
Yeah.
With the caveat, I think we could have gotten here without all of this.
Yeah.
I do think that it's basically just moving one line item to a different column or whatever that would be. I do think it confuses the consumer in the spirit of transparency that this was all about.
Yep.
I think clients are extremely confused.
Yep. Scared,
and I don't think it's really changed a whole lot.
No, it really hasn't changed much. And I think if anyone has had to feel the impact, it's been buyers, unfortunately, which is also what I predicted.
Yep.
Shocker. Just kidding. But so if you're not familiar with this, right, if you're a new agent.
Yeah, this actually, we should probably back up a little bit.
Let's give some context. So a year ago, there was a shift required by National Association of Realtors that all buyers have to be represented in writing. So a buyer-broker agreement has to be signed if you're going to show any property. And also sellers no longer have to offer compensation to a buyer's agent, where before sellers had to, at least in Arizona, offer at least $1 to bring a buyer's agent if they were listed in the MLS. And the shift changed where, you know, buyers or sellers no longer have to offer that. So therefore, who pays the agent? It falls on the buyer, and that's outlined in the buyer-broker agreement. So that was kind of the two big changes that took place. A number of other things, I think, in the suit. It was
truly
kind of
there never was a standard cookie.
No,
there was never a standard cookie. I personally think what happened is we had a lot of people who, we can back up even further and say that I think the bar for entry to become a realtor is entirely too low.
Right.
So when there's a really low bar for entry, what happens is you get people who are doing maybe one deal a year, or they know their aunt's going to buy a home, or they're going to buy a home or sell a home, and they want to save on commission one time, or maybe a couple times. You know, they're going to sell their own home and then help their cousin. And what ultimately probably happened was, oh yeah, this is the standard commission or the standard cookie, right? And it never got explained correctly, which led to a breakdown.
Yeah.
And a
It was
breakdown in
also-
understanding.
Yeah. It was also trackable, right? Because sellers had to, they changed that like shortly before, like whatever, a year or two before the settlement. They decided to be transparent by showing what the compensation offered by the seller was on every property and syndicating that to Zillow. So then your clients knew what you were going to get paid, and they thought that was a good idea. But that created the ability for there to become this like implicit standard, or, you know, or unspoken standard, right? Because now you could create an average out of what you see out there, right? So that's a big no-no for antitrust. So that was there was just a lot. And, you know, when we go back and like think about how did all of this come to be, obviously when real estate started, it was a lot different in the way that buyers found properties, and sellers did have to like offer compensation for a buyer's agent to like discover their house and bring a buyer. Like they were paying for you to come bring a buyer. And you know, a lot of times, like, I don't think sellers really were represented, right? They were listing their homes, and then, like, there was a lot more buyer's agents than listing agents. I might have made that up, but I think that's true. And so as things have
Seems legit.
evolved over time,
I like it.
now everything being on the internet, like, then people say, like, hey, wait a second, I can find my own house, and, like, neglect the rest of the process.
I found my own house.
But it is like, you know, I get conflicted on this, right? Because on one hand, I'm like, as a seller, like, or as your listing agent, I want you to pay me for my services of marketing your property, right? That's completely separate than what Kelly does with her buyer to come buy your house, right? But I also don't know that, like, if you're paying me to get your house out there, I don't think you should also have to pay Kelly to bring a buyer to you, right? Because, like, it's essentially repetitive, you know? At the same time, many buyers cannot pay $11,000 in closing costs plus a compensation to an agent on top of that, especially if they're a first-time home buyer, and their down payment. Like, it's unrealistic the amount of cash that a buyer has to come out of pocket with in order to buy a home if they also have to pay their agent. You know, so you know, but then at the same time, it's like, well, you are the buyer who's hiring someone to help you and have that expertise and guide you. So you should be paying your consultant essentially, right? Like with any other business. So I get conflicted on it because it's, you know, on one hand, it makes sense for the buyer to pay their agent. On the other hand, it's like, is that even reasonable? Can anyone even do that?
Yeah. Well, I feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I think it worked before, you know, because the logic was eventually those sellers would sell and then they would eventually buy something different. And it would just be pretty much like a cycle where they are, you know, on the side where they don't have to compensate their agent, right? So, I mean, there's no great way to do this, right? But we had a way that worked. But now it's just more disclosure, more paperwork, and you have to articulate it better. We all do. Like, there has to be more hard conversations where I think that's probably also how we got in this mess is people are afraid to talk about compensation and
implied agency is a kind of a big issue. And on both sides, right? Because the client doesn't realize that they're kind of working with you, and you don't realize that they don't want to necessarily work with you and have no loyalty there, right? So you're wasting time, and they're not realizing that you think you guys are getting married. And that's what used to happen.
So it has just forced hard conversations to happen, which I think has forced a lot of people to level up.
Yes.
And I don't mind that, actually.
Correct.
It's also kind of, for me personally, it's brought me back to basics. Before we go start, let's meet in my office and I will show you how the whole process works. And I will explain the buyer broker agreement to you.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, I probably got sloppy. And like we talked about, I would probably, if you're a friend of a friend, or I would show you a house, before I forced you to sign something. Before I had you sign something. I used to go with the logic, I will show someone probably 3 homes before I present them. Well, I'll tell them there is a buyer broker agreement coming, but in the spirit of letting them make sure they like me and that I like them. Before we get anything signed, I will show you 3 properties, kind of show you how I work, right? Can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, you can if you want to do the touring agreement, because that exists as well, which is frustrating to me.
Yep.
Because it's like a Band-Aid, and then it's like, okay, well, I just wasted my time because you just wanted to see a house.
Exactly.
So I don't really do those. I don't offer them as an option. If someone asks about it, then I will. But like, here's my thought, and there's a lot of pros to this change. It, like you said, it forced a lot of people to level up, including myself, to create a much more structured buyer consultation.
Exactly.
I do all of mine on Zoom. I don't meet in person unless they really want to, but a lot of my buyers are relocation anyway, so I'm oftentimes talking to them when they're out of state. But it does, force you to set the expectation and show the value that you provide. And so my thought around it is, listen, if you want me to find you homes, because that's part of our team's value, is we find homes that are off market. We get assumable loan property lists. We do a number of things. It's not like we're just setting up an MLS portal for you, right? So I explain all of that in our consultation. If you want us to do that, then I need you to commit to me that you want to work with me. I don't want to do all of that stuff for you, just for you to sign a touring agreement and then decide you never want to talk to me again, right? Like, it's an ongoing relationship is how I kind of explain it to them. And there's value provided through that. And so I'd be happy to I don't work with the people who are like, well, whoever shows it gets the commission. I don't do that. I don't work with investors who want to work with multiple agents to get exhausting. To have a number of properties, and whoever sends them the right one is the one that gets paid. I don't do that shit, because I'm like, I work around the clock, like not around the clock, but I work continuously for you to always give you options, to continually keep my eye out for you. Like, that's my job. I'm committing to you to find you properties and then obviously represent you as well. Therefore, this agreement covers that time frame. So it's not just about me showing you homes. And I'm not going to just like do all of this work to show you one home for you to decide that like we're not a fit, right? Like, that's why you're interviewing me right now. I always explain that, like, if you feel like this isn't going to work out, like, we can mutually cancel the agreement. That's okay. I'm not going to make someone work with me that doesn't want to work with me. But like, here's the fee that we charge. And it's very likely that the seller will pay all or some of it in this market. Whatever they're not willing to pay, we'll let you know how it changes your cash to close. And you can decide if you still want to move forward or if we should continue to negotiate with them or find another property. And it's just very matter of fact. And it's actually been easier for me because it's forced me to have a standard, as we were talking about earlier and in the previous episode with your story. It's forced me to like make a decision and not kind of like, oh, we'll see how it goes. I'll show them this one house and we'll see, because that is such a slippery slope. And then you find yourself like working for free, and then they like, oh, we're just going to rent. I mean, that can still happen with a buyer broker, but there's a little bit more of a commitment level there that people read the language in a 3-page agreement and get a little scared and think like, do I really want to do this? And there's plenty of people that never signed the buyer broker agreement that I otherwise likely would have already shown houses to in the past, right?
Oh,
like,
for sure.
I would have jumped on it. I would have been deep into that. And now in today's world, they don't even sign. Like, no sign, no MLS listing. You don't get shit from me. Until you sign that agreement, I don't do shit for anybody. Literally. I don't. I know. I have someone who wants this list of assumable loans, and I was like, yeah, perfect. We're so happy to get that for you. As soon as you sign the agreement and decide to work with our team, then we can set you up with all this. We can start doing custom searches, da da da.
Yep.
I know that's all he wants. He hasn't signed the agreement. No help. I'll wait.
I love that. Well, I think it also has put us a little bit more in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Whereas I think consumers and clients consumers started getting a little bit cavalier. Like, well, I'll do it. And then, you get paid what you get paid. And like,
yeah.
Now it's, I feel like I have the reins more. I'm, it just has forced everybody to level up. And I feel that it has played out well financially for me. I can command, the number of cookies that I want because it has also forced me to present exactly what I do. Whereas in the past, I used to be like, I'd jump on grenades like crazy. And I typically didn't make it anybody's problem other than my own. My goal is to make the process look extremely easy. But I also now have a list of all of the things I do, buy side, sell side. Like, this is what I do, and this is how I can command the number of cookies that we're putting in this agreement.
Right.
You know? So I feel like for agents who are producing and have systems, it's actually playing out in our favor.
I think, yes. I think our team's compensation has been higher because of it. Because before, as a buyer's agent, you were forced to accept whatever the listing agent or the listing side was offering. Some people did have a buyer agreement that said, here's my fee, so you have to make up the difference. But most people, if they had that, weren't really enforcing it all that much. It was more of like and I could be wrong. There's probably people that were enforcing it, but very few were, I think. And now you can get paid from both sides. And I think that's a win, because now it's like, hey, you love this house. That's great. The seller's going to pitch in for a good chunk of my fee, and you would just be responsible for this minimal percentage of my fee, right? And that's a lot. Like, it's also how you position it. It's not like, hey, now you got to pay me and you never used to before. It's, hey, great news. The seller's going to cover this much of my fee, and this much would be on your closing costs in addition. And, if that's not something they want to continue to negotiate, we can go find another property. And I set that expectation from the start. And this has come up multiple times where the buyer has indeed pitched in the rest, whereas in a prior world, I probably would have taken less because that's all that was being offered by the listing side. It was a little bit more common to see a certain number of cookies than what my cookies were. And so, in fact, I've made more, I think, especially on the buy side, than I had in the past. And it's funny because every time it comes to that point in the process, my team has always been like, hey, what do you want us to do here? Like, they're not going to cover the full fee. Like, I'm okay with just taking less. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
We are not taking less. We set this expectation from the start. This is what our fee is. Because of all the work that we've done. And you bend now, this falls out of contract in 3 days. Now you start over. Guess what? The next time they're going to expect you to bend on your fee again. So we're holding the standard. They can pay the difference. And if they're not interested in paying that difference, then they can find another house where the seller's going to cover the full fee and we can go back to work for them. And I did have buyers do that. They were so pissed about the seller not covering, which the seller was covering 75% of our fee. It was so minimal. And the buyers were so pissed about it that the seller wouldn't pay the full fee that they walked on that house. And I'm like, that's their prerogative. I'm not going to say, that's fine, you don't owe us anything. Because you do. You signed that you would. You agreed. We've done our part. We want our fee.
Do you feel blowback from your buyers when you hold tight?
No.
Or do you feel like is there like a unspoken, I don't want to say animosity. Is there a little bit like like she wouldn't, you know what I mean?
No, because I set the expectation in the consult.
Yep.
They sign a document that says, I'll pay you this much. Mm-hmm. And then when they don't have to, right? Like you got to remind them, hey, you agreed to pay me 5 cookies. Mm-hmm. And the seller's actually going to pay me 4 cookies. So that means you only have to pay me 1.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the conversation. It's not a surprise. It's not like, oh, like, you now owe me. It's you agreed to all of this and we've gotten this far and we've done our best with negotiations. You're getting a lower price for the house. The seller's going to cover this much of my compensation. Your cash to close is going to change by this much because they're only covering this much. So instead of the full 5 cookies, it's just 1 cookie for you. Right. So it's all in how you say it. And it's matter of fact.
Yeah.
Right. It's not this apologetic thing that like, and I think it's easy to like have a conversation in that way because you might feel like, because you don't have to force them to pay that. Right. But do you deserve that? Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, and that was the agreement. That's not like, it's not like,
nobody should be surprised.
I don't go in anywhere and sign an agreement to pay someone. And then when I actually have to pay, be like, but, like, it'd be really nice if I didn't have to pay you that much.
Yeah.
And like expect them to be like, well, yeah, that's
You're
okay.
right.
Let's just slash this,
Yeah.
That shit doesn't happen anywhere else, but in our world it does. And so it's just a matter of fact conversation of like, here's the details of the counter and this is how it'll change. So let me know if you're agreeable to these terms or if we want to go back and ask them to do whatever. Like, and there's so many different pieces, right, to the contract that we can mess around with too. Concessions, price, or the compensation. Like if we're trying to look at a certain number, like how do we get to that goal rather than like, my compensation is the only thing on the table screwing this up. That's not true.
See, and that's where that is an area that I get frustrated with because I have gotten counters where my compensation is the only thing on it. Mm-hmm. And then it's extremely hard to be like,
pay me.
Like I'm the only roadblock here.
Right.
And that is very hard.
Yep.
That is very hard, especially when, I mean, it's a little bit different when it's like people you don't really know or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But think of a very warm client, someone who's done business with you over and over and over and has referred you business.
Yep.
And, has been to your client appreciation parties and all this. Like, it's very hard to be like, I know you love that house. So here's our counter. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? These are very hard conversations to have.
They are. But the beautiful thing is you can decide on that type of thing
Case
if
by
you do
case.
want to make a concession for them. And I did that with a past client. That this was the second time they were working with us. And the compensation was the one piece that was holding things up. And so I was like, you know what? That's okay. I actually, no, it wasn't that. It was the appraisal came in so low. And it was horrible. And so it really changed her net a lot. And the buyer had no wiggle room or cash to come up.
Yeah.
And so in order for us to all come together, I adjusted my comp only because that was the only thing left. And she was a repeat client.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with doing that in that situation. Most of the time I don't, but for a repeat client, sometimes I do. If the situation presents itself.
Yep.
But that is, I would say, one of the cons. So there have been some pros, but that is one of the cons because I did love the past where our compensation couldn't be part of the contract.
Yes.
Because I don't think that that's really fair.
I agree. We're different. We are a different party.
It makes it muddy and it also makes it, I don't know, a little bit like unfair to both us and our clients that can be played with when it's kind of like I've done my job, which is separate from the price of the house, the appraisal, any concessions, whatever you're agreeing to with the seller has nothing to do with like how I've done my job, right?
Well, and now people look at it like, well, now your commission is, amateurized over, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Over 30, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, it's muddy,
Yes. Yeah.
or your cookies are
Yeah.
cookies.
I would agree with that. So that's not ideal.
Yes.
But again, I've thought through this many, many, many times at length, and it's like I don't know the right way to structure real estate because I see it from both sides.
Yeah,
how it's
I
kind
totally
of
do.
shitty for one or shitty for the other, and
Yep.
and I think it's worth mentioning. This is all well and good in this market, but you go back to a COVID market. You think buyers agents are getting paid by the seller?
And I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of, especially with the talk of interest rates coming down in September. I'm doing a lot of buyer consults right now.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a very busy fall.
Could be.
So,
Yeah. So it's going to be
Remains-
another shift that we have
Yeah.
to prep for, a different type of conversation, and a different way for us to get there. So, but I have faith because we've changed direction so many times. It's always some sort
we
of
are cockroaches.
market shift, technology shift. We figure out how to still be around and still get
AI,
paid. Yeah.
iBuyer,
AI, yep.
robots.
All the things. So, but that's when it's really important to be with a good team, around a good mentor, with a great brokerage that has good guidance, leadership. I mean, when all this happened with Real last year, they were like phenomenal with the communication.
They really were.
Especially when, I mean, they were way better than like our state association. Our state was like, so confusing. But thank God we had the leadership at Real because they were on it.
Well, it felt good because it was a little bit more, I felt like the entire atmosphere was so anti real estate agent. Like, we are the biggest pieces of shit for wanting to get paid to work. And if you read any Facebook forum, there are now
ruthless.
influencers who are literally like, their entire shtick is like anti-realtor.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating because I've done nothing but try and, I mean, I have clients that I have found off-market deals for. I've put together like beautiful mind shit.
Yeah.
And I have clients with like over $1 million in equity for profit or for properties that I have like sourced and I have worked my ass off on.
Yeah.
And then to say that I'm like this big piece of shit for wanting to get
paid for doing a job.
I mean, just, so it was nice because I even feel like our association wasn't really like having our backs.
Advocating for us.
So it was nice to be at a brokerage that was like pro agent, pro getting paid, not scared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and gave us the resources and the tools of like, here's how you need to be having these conversations.
The scripts, all of it.
With the shift. Yeah. It was super helpful. They had like weekly, or at one point they had daily like huddles nationally. You could join at like 8, I don't know, it was like 8 to 8:30, like every day for like, I don't know, a few weeks, which was like so helpful. Ask any questions, run through scripts, talking points. Like they were super on it and I appreciated that. So that's something to keep in mind because the way it is today won't be the way it is probably in a year because things are always changing. And so we have to pivot, change our strategy, and figure out how to continue to thrive in all different types of markets.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I think this was a good one. I can't believe it's been a year. That's wild
I can't
to
either.
me.
I can't either. Yeah.
But it always works out. I mean, we're resilient if we are anything.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we survived the internet coming on. I mean, that had to be a real big shakeup amongst agents. Yeah. AI is the latest. We've had real good discussions on that. If you missed that episode about AI, that's
with Lisa Montross. That's
a good one.
That's a doozy.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. As always, you guys, we're going to have more episodes coming up soon. Hit subscribe on YouTube, follow us on any other platform, leave a
the bell.
review, all the things.
All the things. And then I think it's important to note that we have a biweekly newsletter. So
Yeah.
if you want that, we will put that in the show notes so you can get signed up for that. And we can't wait to see you next time.
See you next time.